Welcome to the Music for Transformation interview series, where I get to interview amazing people who use music to enhance their own lives and that of other people as well. So first of all, just hit that subscribe button now and enjoy the interview. So welcome again to another interview, and joining me today is Maria Atherley. Hi, Maria.
Hi, James. Hi.
Good to have you on the show. And Maria and I met a few weeks back now. She was referred to me as a good person to speak to. And let me tell you a little bit about her. So she's a sound healer and also teaches meditation and yoga at her wellbeing space, the Karma Hub, which is based in Sheffield, South Yorkshire in the UK, in England. Maria holds space for deep relaxation, Gong Sound Baths, and works on a one-to-one basis with clients using sound as her core healing modality, hence why she is on the show. So very excited to find out a little bit more. So I think I'll just keep it a very open question to start with then, Maria. What exactly is it that you do in regards to using this sound to help people and heal people?
Okay. Well, as anyone who's been on a healing journey will know, is that healing takes place within the individual, and I'm just really a conduit for that. And sound is an even stronger conductor of healing energy. So I'm kind of just a vehicle, I guess, and the instruments are just a vehicle to help people come back to wholeness, I think is a nice phrase. A lot of the time when people come to me, they are working through things like anxiety, depression, things to do with family trauma, and sometimes parental trauma. It can be quite deep sometimes. So the sound works on a subconscious level. So it negates the reason for someone to have to sit and pour out their whole life story, because it's very intuitive and it will go to where that person needs it to go on that day. And it might be a physiological release, but it might be a subconscious deep release within the energy body as well. Does that answer?
Wow, yeah, that's good. So when you say a release, tell me a little bit more about that then. So in terms of a physiological release, I mean, I can sort of imagine that there are various physiological releases. You know, I certainly know that, you know, release of emotions can cause things like tears, etc. It can cause a whole range of things. Yeah. And then obviously, you know, psychological release. Can you tell me, expand upon those a little bit more?
Yeah. So as I've said, sound works on two levels. The physiological level, where there are lots of other trauma release systems as well out there that involve movement. And in fact, yoga can be a methodology to release trauma, stuck emotion in the body. I personally have experienced that through movement practice, actually releasing. And there's a lot more practices out there now that release trauma through shaking and it's basically shifting it, because it's stuckness that's within the body somewhere. So the sound does that, and I have seen people physically shaking in a sound bath, and it's the body. It was like an autonomic response. At first, I was quite perturbed by it as a practitioner, because I was like, "Ooh, is this person having a fit?" But it was a natural body release. They had done some practice before with other practitioners, so this particular client, her body knew what to do, and it like responded very intuitively to the sound, and the sound triggered that release for her. And then the tears is, yeah, absolutely. I've experienced that. And also, so the emotive side of things, on the last session that I did a few weeks ago, I had a client who came out of the session, and it was a relaxation session. and she was really angry. Like she felt like she needed to shout and release. So it had brought those sensations up. And, anger is an energy, as the song goes, as you know. So that needs to come out, because emotion is energy in motion. Yeah. And that is what gets stuck within our body. And the sound allows us to release that. Sometimes we know it's happening, sometimes we don't, depending on how deep the sound travels down and what the altered state of consciousness is for that individual. But if there are 9 people in this room, there will be 9 different experiences, because they are all individual vessels and bits of water and chemicals and cosmic energy and all of that. And what happens for one person won't be the same for another in the room. It's a very unique experience.
That's great. Thank you. As you're talking there, it made me think of an experience that I actually had, which it didn't involve sound. And I'm not going to go into all the ins and outs of it, but it actually involved 3 words, to be honest. It involved us shouting out 3 words. And within that experience, it was amazing. I was only involved in it for a few seconds, but I experienced pins and needles all down my arms, all down my legs, to the extent that I've never experienced them before. And it was just an absolute release of something, so I can totally relate to that. And I just want to sort of comment so we can, further educate people out there. We've probably all at some point in time told someone, don't cry, or, particularly to maybe this whole thing of men don't cry, they've got to be strong, etc. And of course, and I don't know if I've said exactly that to my daughter before, but certainly sometimes, we might say to calm down and things like that. But of course, sometimes that's the wrong advice, because people do need to release those emotions. So like you're saying, it could be a whole range of things. It could be sadness, it could be anger, whatever it is, but it does need to come out somehow, doesn't it? So
Absolutely.
yeah, great points. Thank you. So I see obviously like you've got some bowls behind you, and in a bit I'll ask you to, if you don't mind sharing the experience so people can actually have a listen and see what goes on. But is it just a case then, Maria? So you've said about this sound. Now, obviously, you've gone through qualifications. If someone's watching this and they were thinking, well, so do I just need to make a load of noise then and it will heal me? Is it sort of that simple, or what do you actually do? If everyone's sort of slightly different, what do you do as this trained sound therapist to ensure that, it's the right kind of sound and they're going to get a good experience from it?
The way that I work is I've got a variety of instruments. So what you can see behind me are just a selection of hand-beaten Tibetan singing bowls. What you can't see right now are the gongs, which are here. So I've got 2 gongs. One is an earth gong and the other one is a sun gong. And then behind me here, I have some quartz crystal bowls. And then I've also got a variety of percussive instruments. I work with a shamanic drum. So in a sound bath with me, you will experience, it's a sonic journey, is how I describe it. And by putting in the variety of tones and sounds and timbre for the soundscape, there will be an element, hopefully, for each individual in the room that it will allow something to happen for them. And it may be that that individual just needs a really good deep rest. So in the same sound bath that I described, where we had anger coming up for one person, 2 other people had like the best night's sleep that they'd had in 45 minutes, because it can induce that, because it goes in, the brain moves into, well, out of beta, which is our normal brainwave state, down to alpha, maybe delta and theta. It just depends on how deep and how ready that person is to receive, I think. And so where there's resistance, there's something there that needs to be let go of. And some people come here and they're very tightly wound up, and they're just like this. And at the end, if they come out and they say, that felt good, I felt relaxed, that's the first time I've been able to relax in a long time, I know that that's been exactly what they needed on that day. Whereas some other people will come and they will have a visceral release. You know, they might be sobbing and crying and having that emotional outpouring, or there might be the physiological aspect of it where, you know, they've got pins and needles like you described, or other physical sensations, which is, you know, releasing trauma from the body, trapped energy, whatever it might be for them, for that person. So yeah, it's about trying to accommodate without knowing who's coming into the room and what they're bringing with them. It's a very intuitive process for me. So I just try and produce an experience that hopefully every single person will have something positive or something productive to take away with them as that experience.
Thank you. So I can sort of totally understand that. And as far as I'm aware, people, the same person, if they were to come back the next week and have even kind of exactly the same sound, it could produce a different kind of response, again, based upon what they and their body needed at that time. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes. And at the beginning of every sound bath, one of the things that I say in my introduction is, even if you've been to sound baths before, it won't be the same experience for you. And if you have expectations about what you think you might get, don't be surprised if the opposite happens, or if absolutely nothing happens, because sound healing also has for some people and in some situations more of a latent release as well, because it might not happen in the room on the day or on the night. It may be up to 24, 48 hours afterwards that the person experiences a release of emotion, and it may be that they get super sensitive, or they get angry, or they're triggered by a set of circumstances, completely benign probably, but it brings them into that, I need to get rid of this out of my body. And it's very much likely to have been the sound bath that's brought that to the surface for them. So it doesn't always happen in the room either. And I do put a lot of time into making sure that there's follow-up and everybody gets aftercare, little cards, and they know that they'll be supported afterwards. And if they have any questions, or if something happens that might be a bit unusual, that they can reach out to me and say, is this the sound, or is this just something else? And so I provide that as part of the support service, really, as part of what
Brilliant.
I do. So
that's great, actually, because I imagine actually, and I've experienced gong baths myself, and I think for some people it can be a little bit daunting, a little bit worrying at times, you know, especially if they are feeling certain emotions. So it's good to know that the self-care is there. You mentioned earlier on that people should ideally be open to the whole experience and, you know, releasing emotions. Is that something they have to be open to consciously, or is it just sort of like a subconscious thing that you know they need to be open to that, to receiving all of that?
I think both is the answer, because sound works on a subconscious level in the mind. But if somebody comes with a conscious awareness of what they need or what they think they need, so in yoga we talk about setting an intention, a sankalpa, which is I want to feel this, and they might recite a little mantra, And sometimes, depending on what's happening in the energetic world with the moon and the planets and things, I will talk about the energies that are around at the moment. So if it's a certain part of the moon cycle, I might suggest at the beginning and say, oh, well, this is all about release and letting go as we prepare towards, moving towards a new moon, which is all about manifesting and planting seeds and bringing things to life. Then I might plant those seeds at the beginning of a session as well, if people don't have a focus. And then when they do go into that deeper state, then the subconscious mind will work, because the brain kind of switches into the vibrations of the sound, and it goes with that frequency, and the person might not even realize that's what's going on for them.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me.
A bit of a trickster, can be a bit of a trickster. So yeah, it's I kind of frame it that anything goes or nothing.
And that in a way is sometimes difficult for people, isn't it? Because if you get a certain type of personality, we often like to control things. We often like to know what's going on, particularly some people. So I suppose it's just a case of trusting that process, isn't it? Really being really open to receiving that healing, being open to the fact that, as you said right at the start, that it's not as though you specifically are healing. It's like the person's body is healing themselves, and the sound is obviously allowing them to do that. So I suppose if they're open to all of that, then theoretically they could get a greater benefit from it. So yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you. Is it possible that you could actually just have a little play, give us an experience of what it would sound like? Is that okay?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Yeah.
So what I will say is, as Maria sets this up, we're currently recording this via Zoom over the internet, and we're not likely to experience exactly the same sounds. Zoom sometimes distorts sounds, so we're not likely to experience it exactly as it would be, but it should give us a bit of a flavour. Maria, are there any concerns in regards to if anyone is driving or anything like that at the moment whilst listening to this?
Yeah, I'd probably pull over.
Okay, there we go. So
it's
pause
like
this.
Trying to meditate while you're driving is probably not a good idea. So, and because the sound will do what it does, or may not do anything at all, and I can't control the receiving end of whoever it might be that's listening and watching to this video, then I would say pull over, like you do on the radio. Don't call and drive at the same time.
Well, that is our disclaimer then. So you have heard it. That is our disclaimer. So all right. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've got there, Maria, and and give us an example.
So here I've got six. I've got 6 hand-beaten Tibetan bowls, and then I've got 2 machined bowls. So the sounds are very different from all of them. Different tones, and each bowl produces its own maybe 3, 4 or 5 different notes, and it will, depending on how I strike it, will work in a different level and a different frequency and a different note. Whenever I put a monitor on it to see what note it is, they are tuned to certain, what you would describe as the is it the pentatonic scale? Is that right?
Could be. Yeah, could be. Yeah.
So I've got like an F bowl here. I've got an E bowl, and other notes. That might be the core note, but there'll be lots of other tones there within it and around it. So they're quite complex, really, in the sound that they do produce. So I'll just let them do the talking, I think.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. So if you'd like to just make yourself comfortable for a moment.
Yeah.
And close your eyes. And just take a few deep breaths into the abdomen. And as you exhale, just soften the shoulders and soften the face muscles, the eyebrows, the forehead. So consciously allowing tension to drop from the body and to be in a receptive state, just to absorb the sound for a few moments. Just staying with the breath and staying with this focus. As we come back into silence, just bringing yourself back into your breath. And maybe taking a sigh to release. And then another deep breath in and out. And just allowing yourself to come back to visual awareness in your own time.
Wow. Thank you. Well, you know what? I do genuinely feel really relaxed there. I know that was, I don't know how long that was, only a minute or so, but feel very relaxed actually there. And yeah, I was thinking during that, I thought I better not fall asleep. You imagine someone will ask you, how did the interview go? Well, the interviewer fell asleep. But yeah, thank you for that. Once again, I will point out, obviously, the sound, you know, I can hear a bit of distortion there, which is just the way it is because we're doing this through use of Zoom, etc. There are other platforms that it might, you know, work out a little bit better as well. I believe it is still, you know, possible to get good benefits though, you know, even though, you know, we're essentially working virtually or working remotely here, that the sound does still sort of travel through. Do you do sessions online, or is it just in person that you actually do them?
It works better in person, I have to say. And as a qualified therapist, on a one-to-one basis, I've got all of my treatment facilities set up, and I'm still able to practice under the current guidelines, because therapy is still allowed to continue as long as it's COVID safe. So I am continuing to practice. most people prefer the in-person as well. And once they start journeying with me and working with me, it's a preferred thing. I do, and I have done Zoom because I work on helping people with, well, I call it conscious mentorship. Some people call it spiritual counselling, but that can be more of an interchange and more talking, and then more guided visualizations, meditation, because I did train in movement, breath work, meditation as a yoga teacher. So I've got quite a few tools that I draw on
And
when
that
I work with people. So
I was going to say, it's great, isn't it? When you've got all those different tools, you've got all those different modalities, and you can just bring them together and really work out what works for that person, which is great. Just wanted to pick up on something you said earlier about how you said it's quite an intuitive thing. And what I sort of wanted to know is, when you say that, so ideally, yes, working one-to-one with a client makes sense, that you can obviously work with them the closest if it's a one-to-one format, and they're most likely to get the most benefits. If you were doing sound healing in a group situation, when you say it's intuitive, just wondered if you could sort of expand upon this. Are you just literally kind of going with the flow, and whatever comes into your intuition you kind of go with? Or are you sort of trying to focus on maybe different people within the group and think about what they might need and focus on different people at a time? And also, as a further part to that question, when you were just giving this an example, albeit a very short, quick example, again, were you during that just kind of doing things just for demonstration purposes, or were you actually trying to focus on something? For example, for me, because obviously I'm on the other end of the camera, if you like. So yeah, just wondered if you could expand on that.
okay, so intuitive healing for me is that I'm just a vessel. I wouldn't say I'm psychic or anything like that. So I don't hone in and try and get, oh, this person needs such a body, and they've got a spirit around them or anything like that. It's more a case of, and because I work with Reiki energy as well, I'm Reiki 2 attuned, and that's just really opening yourself up as a channel for this energy to flow through you. And I've found, since I attuned to Reiki as well, that the sound does really flow through me. So it's like I'm a conductor. And I don't mean the one that stands in front of an orchestra. I mean as in a vessel for the energy to flow through. And then it's amplified through the instruments that I work with. Now, this is particularly noticeable when I work with tuning forks, which I haven't got any here. They're in my treatment room. And I work with a chakra set, and then I also work with solfeggio frequencies. And so they're all tuned to specific frequencies, and each of these frequencies has a purpose. Some of them are physiological and some of them are emotional. And they range from probably about, it's the lowest one I've got, 174 hertz, and it goes up to 800 or 900 hertz. So that's really high vibrational frequency. So we're talking about letting the instruments do the work through me. So I wouldn't say it's specifically directed, and I don't think it's possible to do that when you've got 9 people in the room. But when I'm working on a one-to-one basis, and I've got that person's story as well, and their intention, because they don't come to me and say, right, I'm not telling you anything, you've got to guess it all. We work together, and they express the areas of their life that they want to try and work on to bring them back into wholeness, if they've had traumatic experiences, or if they've been ill, or if they're living with anxiety or depression, or anything really, then it's purposeful. and it's about putting balance back into their energy system, realigning things, and allowing the energy to flow more freely through their body. Because as we are energy beings, we vibrate at a frequency. Our bodies vibrate. And given that we're, 65% water. Water's a conductor of energy and frequency. It has its own crystalline properties, as do we. We're not just flesh and bone. We're way more than what we can actually see. So does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. And I know there's a very famous study, Dr. Someone I can't, Masoto, was it, or
Japanese,
something?
yeah.
Who did, you obviously know about it, did lots of studies on water particles and exposing them to different things like prayer and different affirmations, positive or negative, and also exposing them to music as well, I believe. And it was able to change the crystals, wasn't it? The water crystals.
Yes.
So again, if we are mostly water in our body, then you can imagine that all of those things which are entering our body, through our mind or whatever, be it in terms of sound or, language, whatever it is, it's all going in there. It's all going to have some effect, isn't it?
Absolutely. And most of it's here.
Okay.
In our own minds.
Yeah, absolutely.
What our thoughts become things, and that then triggers. So if we are thinking and speaking at a low vibrational frequency, then our body's out of balance. So the work that I do brings the frequency of that person hopefully up.
That's amazing.
To where it should be, yeah.
That's brilliant. And, totally agree with that. Things can go in subconsciously. It doesn't have to be that we're consciously aware of it, but everything is going in subconsciously, even if we're not consciously aware of it. And we can really, we're in 2020 as we speak. It's certainly been a year of a lot of challenges, hasn't it? So we can quite easily go into that negative spiral. And obviously we're doing different things, but similar things in terms of, I'm using music to help people with their mindset, to help change those negative thoughts with my empowerment songs albums. They're all geared to having those positive lyrics. So again, as they go into your mind, it starts to change your thought processes. And obviously music and sound can really change your state. As we just found there, when you were doing that example, again, as I said, I honestly, genuinely felt really relaxed. Now, part of that is just the fact that I've just slowed down. I've just closed my eyes and I've breathed. Okay. And that is obviously something that anyone can do anytime, providing they're not driving. They can certainly do that, and it certainly can change their state. But, I would, although this wasn't a scientific study, I definitely think there that the sound that I was experiencing there certainly played a part in just me feeling a little bit more relaxed there. So yeah, thank you ever so much. Good.
My pleasure.
If people want to find out more, I believe you've got you do free online meditation classes via Zoom, or I don't know if that's to everybody, but certainly for listeners or watchers of this interview, you're happy to do that. Yes.
Yeah, I'm happy to offer a free link into anybody who's watched this if they're interested. I teach a regular class on Monday, 8:30 till 9:15. And that's broadcast live to that Zoom class. My students, obviously, they normally pay, but I'm happy to offer out some free samples.
That's lovely.
Of my work, so that people can experience. And obviously, they don't have to be in Sheffield. This is the power of the technology and the platforms that we're now getting more used to working on. And through lockdown, that's really helped me with my skills and open myself up to the different ways in which I can work and how I can continue to support people, even though we might not be able to be in the same room together all the time. So yeah, I'm very happy.
Thank you. Well, thank you ever so much for that offer. That is great. And that's obviously, so meditation class. So you're not using sound there? No, you just like.
I tend not to. Well, what I do, I play solfeggio frequencies in the background. So I'll work with either 432 or 528 hertz. which are really positive, uplifting, heart-centered frequencies while I'm doing. And I write my own visualizations, but I also teach breathwork, pranayama, as well as a key part of the practice. So if anybody's not tried that before, has always been curious but not known where to start, then it might be a nice way to try it, see if they can get on with it, and then they could maybe pick up a regular slot, because it's nice to have space held for you while you're doing that work. And I've found that the platform of Zoom and how it's been received by my students has been really, really positive. So,
oh, that's great. Great to hear. Thank you. So how can people get in contact with you? Either, if they're interested in that or interested in a session, particularly if they obviously live in Sheffield near you. But if not, even if they just wanted to maybe find out a little bit more or have some questions or something like that, is there certain places you direct them to?
Yeah, well, at the moment we have a Karma Hub Facebook page, and we've got a website which is karmahub.co.uk, and you can contact me through there. And I think it's my mobile number actually that's the contact. So if you go through Karma Hub, you'll get to me. And I've got a new website which is all about my sound healing work, which is mariaatherley.com.
Lovely.
Get me there too. And I'm on Facebook. I've got a practitioner's Facebook page as well there. So
brilliant. And I'll put all this information in the show notes as well. So, if you're intrigued, if you're watching this, listening to this, if you're intrigued, if you're curious, if you want to know more, want to experience it a little bit more, then do go ahead and get in contact with Maria. And through speaking to Maria, I've got an idea that this Karma Hub, building or facility that you've got, I'm sure is a great place if you can be part of that as well. So sounds really good. Maria, thank you ever so much for your time today. I've found it absolutely fascinating and obviously beneficial as well in terms of me. It relaxed me. So thank you. Anything else that you would like to sort of say, or any question that you wish I'd asked you? Anything like that at all?
I don't think so, actually. I think it's really nice just to focus on this. It's almost like the outside world doesn't exist for a few brief moments. So it's a bit of a light relief, I think, to what's buzzing around in the external environment. So thank you for the opportunity to be part of this. It's been lovely talking to you today. Thank you.
No problem at all. Thank you ever so much, Maria. And if you're watching this or listening to this, watch out for another interview soon. Thanks ever so much. Thank you so much for watching. 3 quick things to do now. 1, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. 2, go to the inneranthem.com website and access your free video series, the 3-minute music life hack, so you can find out how to use music to enhance your life. And thirdly, get your own copy of the Empowerment Songs albums at the inneranthem.com website.